Palestinian enemy was Yasser Arafat, who would dispatch his guerrillas to strike at Israel from his then headquarters in Beirut. Keen to disrupt Arafat's activities, Israel invaded Lebanon, and in the summer of 1982, it imposed a blockade on its capital. As an artillery officer, I was part of the IDF machine which operated this blockade. Surrounding Beirut from all sides and controlling it from the air and sea too, the Israeli military cut off electricity and water supplies and restricted the amount and types of foods, particularly flour, entering the city. At the same time, artillery, aeroplanes, and warships kept bombing large sections of Beirut. The Israelis hoped that the pressure on the capital, the fire, restrictions on food, water, and electricity, would break the morale of the Beirutis, and they would then turn their backs on Arafat. It worked well. In August 1982, the Lebanese government, exhausted by the continuing Israeli tactics and the destruction of their capital, demanded that Arafat and his guerrilla leave Beirut, at which point the Palestinian leader relocated to Tunisia. Since Hamas has come to power in Gaza, the military has implemented the same tactics it did in Lebanon. Taking advantage of its air, sea, and land control of the Strip, Israel has imposed a strict blockade on the Gazans in order to make their lives hell and break their spirit in the hope that they turn their backs on Hamas. The most visible aspect of the Israeli blockade on Gaza was the restrictions it imposed on the imports of foods. The aim was to allow the Gazans just enough food and no more. The Israelis developed mathematical formulas to measure the number of days it would take the Gazans to run out of each particular product, what the Israelis called the length of breath. Lower and upper lines were set up to give the army advance warnings of shortages and surpluses. If and when the upper line for a given food item was reached, its import was blocked, only to be topped up when an advance warning was issued based on the mathematical formula that the lower line was reached. For the Gazans, this heartless system produced food insecurity and total dependence on the goodwill of the Israelis. At the same time, food items regarded by the Israelis as luxuries, such as fruit tins, disappeared altogether from shop shelves. Building materials were also restricted under the Israeli blockade. Cement, gravel, and steel bars were all banned, which in turn triggered a severe housing shortage, as only a fraction of the 40,000 housing units needed to meet natural population growth and the loss of homes destroyed during previous Israeli attacks could be built. The housing crisis, which was directly caused by the Israeli blockade, had devastating humanitarian consequences, as many Gazans had to live in increasingly cramped living quarters. Gazan Abu Midad Ghanemeh, who lived in a house in eastern Gaza City that was partially destroyed in an Israeli attack with 26 extended family members and his wife and 7 children, all in the same 30-square-meter bedroom, described the dire conditions. "I am tired of this situation. None of us has any privacy. My wife is obliged to cover her head all day since my extended family also lives with us. All children study in the same room where we all sleep. It has no windows and its door cannot be locked. As my children range from a few months to 14 years old, and they are boys and girls, it is not appropriate for them to live side by side. This often results also in fights and tension." Gaza's farmers were also targeted by the Israeli blockade, as they were totally or partially prevented from accessing land located up to 1,000 to 1,500 meters from the perimeter fence surrounding Gaza and separating it from Israel. Altogether, the army restricted farmers' access to 17% of the total landmass of the Gaza Strip, which is 35% of its agricultural land. To stop Palestinian farmers from getting into the banned areas, the Israeli Air Force dropped warning leaflets, and bulldozers would cross the perimeter fence into Gaza to raze to the ground greenhouses and uproot fruit trees. Troops would often open fire against farmers trying to access their own lands, thus turning the forbidden areas into killing fields. Farmers lucky enough to be able to access their fields would see much of the fruits and vegetables rot on trees, as restrictions on the export of goods out of the Strip were also imposed without any advance warning. At sea, as of 2007,